If you're moving to Switzerland, you've probably heard conflicting advice about credit scores. Some people will tell you that Switzerland doesn't have credit scores at all. Others insist that you need excellent credit before you can even rent an apartment. And then there are stories about people being rejected for a mobile phone contract simply because they were new to the country. So what's the truth? The reality is that Switzerland does things rather differently from countries like the United States, the United Kingdom, or Canada. There isn't a single nationwide three-digit credit score that follows you throughout your financial life. Instead, Swiss lenders, landlords, telecom companies, and other businesses assess your financial reliability using a combination of information from debt registers, credit reporting agencies, public records, and your personal financial circumstances. The good news is that if you're moving to Switzerland, you're not arriving with a bad credit score. In fact, you'll generally be arriving with no Swiss credit history at all. While this can make some things more difficult initially, it's far from an insurmountable problem. In today's video, we'll explain exactly how Swiss creditworthiness works, what newcomers should expect, how to build a good financial reputation, and the practical steps you should take during your first weeks in Switzerland to make life as smooth as possible. Let's get started. The first thing to understand is that Switzerland doesn't have an equivalent of the American FICO score that everyone talks about. Instead, companies build a picture of your financial reliability using several sources of information. One of the most important is whether you've ever failed to pay your bills. Debt collection records, known as Ausbettlebungen in German-speaking Switzerland, can have a significant impact on how businesses assess your application. Companies may also look at information held by private credit agencies, your current address, your employment status, your income, and how long you've lived in Switzerland, rather than asking, "What's your credit score?" Swiss businesses are often asking a different question: how likely is this person to pay their bills on time? That distinction is important. If you've never had financial problems and consistently meet your obligations, you'll gradually build a strong financial reputation, even without a traditional credit score. One of the biggest surprises for many expats is that their excellent credit history from another country usually doesn't transfer to Switzerland. You may have had perfect credit in Germany, Britain, Australia, or the United States, but Swiss companies generally can't use that information directly. Instead, you begin with no Swiss financial history. This doesn't mean companies assume you're unreliable. It simply means they have less information on which to base their decisions. As a result, some businesses may ask for larger deposits, require advance payments, or impose lower spending limits until you've established yourself. Think of it as proving yourself again in a new country. Fortunately, this process is usually much quicker than many people expect. Before we talk about credit specifically, let's discuss the practical steps every newcomer should complete during their first days in Switzerland. These don't just help you settle in. They also help establish your financial identity. One of the very first things you must do after arriving is register your residence with your local commune within the required time frame, which varies slightly depending on the canton. This registration officially records your Swiss address and begins many administrative processes. Without registration, opening bank accounts, obtaining permits, and accessing various services becomes considerably more difficult. Health insurance is compulsory in Switzerland. You generally have 3 months from your arrival to choose a provider, although your cover is backdated to the date you became resident. Choosing a reputable insurer and paying your premiums on time is important. Missed health insurance payments can eventually result in debt collection proceedings, which is something you definitely want to avoid. A Swiss bank account is one of the cornerstones of your financial life. Your salary will usually be paid into it. Your rent, insurance premiums, utilities, and many other bills will be paid from it. Many banks offer accounts specifically designed for newcomers or expats. Having your salary paid regularly into a Swiss account also helps demonstrate financial stability when applying for other services. Mobile phone contracts often involve credit checks. If you're brand new to Switzerland, you may initially find that prepaid SIM cards are easier to obtain than long-term subscription contracts. After you've established some financial history, obtaining postpaid contracts generally becomes much easier. Pay your mobile bills on time. Even relatively small, unpaid amounts can eventually affect your financial record. Your residence permit isn't directly related to creditworthiness, but it plays an important supporting role. Banks, landlords, employers, and other organizations will frequently ask to see your permit when verifying your identity and legal right to live in Switzerland. Longer-term permits may also make some applications easier because they demonstrate greater residential stability. Switzerland has one of the world's best public transport systems. Obtaining a half-fare card, regional travel pass, or general abonnement isn't about building credit, but having predictable monthly expenses managed through your bank account contributes to establishing a well-organized financial life. Many newcomers discover they don't actually need to own a car. If you're renting an apartment where utilities aren't already included, you'll need to establish accounts for electricity, internet, and possibly other services. Again, paying these bills consistently and on time demonstrates responsible financial behavior. Good financial habits aren't about making one big payment. They're about making hundreds of small payments correctly over many years. Now let's look at what can damage your financial standing. The biggest issue is unpaid debts, ignoring invoices, missing payment reminders, allowing debts to enter formal collection proceedings. These leave records that companies may consider when assessing future applications. Late payments aren't just inconvenient. They can become surprisingly expensive once reminder fees, collection costs, and legal charges are added. If you ever receive an invoice that you believe is incorrect, don't simply ignore it. Contact the company immediately and resolve the issue. Communication is almost always better than silence. Swiss banks generally take a conservative approach to lending. When applying for a personal loan, mortgage, or credit card, they'll typically consider factors such as your income, employment stability, existing financial commitments, residence status, debt history, length of residence in Switzerland. New arrivals may initially receive lower credit card limits than long-term residents. That's perfectly normal. As your financial history develops, these limits often increase naturally. Remember that responsible borrowing means only borrowing what you can comfortably repay. Unlike some countries, Switzerland generally discourages excessive consumer debt. Many people believe landlords check a credit score. Usually, they're more interested in something else. A debt enforcement register extract. This document shows whether you've been subject to debt collection proceedings in the relevant jurisdiction. A clean extract can significantly strengthen your rental application. Together with proof of income, employment, and references, it demonstrates that you're likely to be a reliable tenant. This is one reason why paying bills promptly is so important. Let's finish with some common pitfalls. The first is assuming your overseas credit history automatically applies in Switzerland. Usually, it doesn't. The second is ignoring invoices because they're written in German, French, or Italian. Always translate them if necessary. The third is opening too many financial products immediately. Take your time. Build your financial profile gradually. Finally, don't assume that small unpaid amounts don't matter. A forgotten invoice for a few francs can eventually become a much larger and more complicated problem. Fortunately, building a strong financial reputation is remarkably straightforward. Register promptly. Open a Swiss bank account. Choose your health insurer. Pay every bill before its due date. Keep your contact information updated. Respond quickly to correspondence. Maintain stable employment where possible. Live within your means. These simple habits will do far more for your financial reputation than trying to game the system. In Switzerland, consistency matters far more than complexity. Perhaps the biggest lesson about Swiss creditworthiness is that it's really about trust. Switzerland isn't obsessed with a mysterious three-digit number. Instead, it's interested in something much simpler. Can you be relied upon to meet your obligations? If the answer is yes, you'll gradually find that opening bank accounts, obtaining better credit cards, renting apartments, financing purchases, and applying for mortgages all become easier. For newcomers, the first few months are mostly about getting organized. Register your address. Arrange your health insurance. Open your bank account. Get your permit. Set up your utilities. Pay your bills. Do those things consistently, and you'll quickly establish the kind of financial reputation that opens doors throughout your life in Switzerland. If you found this guide useful, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Alpine Expat, and let us know in the comments what aspect of Swiss life you'd like us to explain next. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.